Good morning, everybody. Today's hearing is going to be broadcast after a 10-minute delay. Those with mobile telephones may use them to transmit what they hear to the outside world, but only after 10 minutes have elapsed since the event that they're describing. Those devices may not be used for recording or photography. Thank you.
I do solemnly, sincerely and truly
I do solemnly, sincerely and truly
declare and affirm
that
the evidence I shall give
shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Thanks, sir. Can you give your full name to the court, please?
Karen Esther Doyle.
You've provided two witness statements to the inquiry. The first is at UCPI 38051. Can that be put up on screen, please? Can you see that in front of you? It consists of 161 pages, and it was signed and dated by you on the 8th of July 2025.
Correct.
Do you confirm the contents of that are true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
That will stand as your evidence in this inquiry. You also provided a second witness statement, which is UCPI 39407, which consists of 9 pages, signed and dated by you on the 31st of October 2025. Do you recognise that as your statement?
I do.
And are the contents to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Again, that will be admitted as your evidence to this inquiry. I'd like to ask you firstly just a little bit about your background. I understand you came from Ireland when you were about age 6 or 7. You came to the UK, and that was in the mid-80s.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. I think I was actually 5 or 6, not 6 or 7. But.
Okay. And your political interest was sparked around the age of 12. And why was that?
So coming from Ireland in the mid-80s to the UK was a difficult time to be Irish. Right from the start, I was kind of subject to anti-Irish bullying on my estate, and even teachers making me stand up and repeat words with TH in them over and over, shaming me for speaking with an Irish accent. So as a young child, I took all that in, and I kind of felt like I didn't want to be Irish, and I used to practice to try and lose my Irish accent. It was only when I went to secondary school and we started doing history lessons with this incredible Irish history teacher, Miss Feeney, who taught us about South Africa, India, the Indian independence struggle, the Russian Revolution, just these incredible historical moments, the Irish famine and the resulting forced migration. And I started to reject what I had internalized much more, and I saw, at that time you had the situation where Gerry Adams, his voice was being dubbed, because even apparently hearing his voice would incite people to terror or something. It was so ridiculous. But then I saw the Guildford 4 case and people who had been fitted up by the state. And I made a decision to always stand on the side of the oppressed. I became resolutely for Irish reunification. I became proudly Irish. I was someone I'm going to stand against colonialism. I'm going to be one of those people that I learnt about in history that stood for justice and freedom and equality. So that's where the kind of shift in mindset came about.
Come 1993, you moved to the Kingsway College, and that's where you go to do your A-levels. When you join, that's in the autumn of 1993. And you set out in your witness statement that you joined the Students' Union, and you were a member of the union between September 93 and July 96. You also became a member of the Kingsway Anti-Fascist Group, and you were a member between May 94 and September 94. How did you come to be involved in the KAFG?
So at the start, I was mainly just involved in the Kingsway Student Union activities. So they were doing a lot around canteen prices. You know, there was demonstrations on the college in the college site, and they were also doing anti-racist activities. And it was kind of a merging of the Kingsway Anti-Fascist Group and the Student Union, because the Kingsway Anti-Fascist Group stood as a slate in the election. So the Kingsway College Student Union was resolutely anti-fascist, anti-racist. And I would attend meetings. I joined the anti-fascist group. I went to a couple of meetings, but I didn't actually get that involved with them until Shah Alam, until I found out that one of my college mates had been subject to a vicious racist attack in East London. And that was the moment that I think turned everything for me, that made me commit to this struggle against racism.
So just before you joined Kingsway College, in the April of 1993, we know that Stephen Lawrence had been killed. But during the early 90s, there were a number of racist attacks, weren't there, in London?
Yeah. Can I just say it was relentless. Like it was constant. It was not just racist attacks. There was racist murders, and every week there was something new. And some got reported on, and some didn't. And I was aware of that in '93 because the Student Union and the Anti-Fascist Group were organising around those issues.
And not long after you joined the college, you say that the KAFG was building towards Welling.
Welling,
and
yeah.
we know about that demonstration in Welling on the 16th of October 93. You didn't attend that, did you? Why was that?
I was scared. I was 16 years old, and I kind of, I had seen previous demonstrations, and I knew there was a risk of confrontation with the police and the fascists, and honestly, I was scared, and I didn't go, and I regret that decision, but it was, you know, the way I was feeling at the time.
KAFG's aim was to stop fascists, is that right?
Yeah.
And to try and prevent racist attacks and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
How was that achieved? How were they going to do that?
Political campaigning, organising, community self-defence, and that happened a bit later when we set up community defence. But yeah, mainly political campaigning, organising, wherever the fascists were planning to march or gather, that what could we do to stop that, to occupy where they planned to march, to surround them, to prevent people from joining them. It was a number of different strategies.
You say that you became a member of RIL, the Revolutionary Internationalist League, between October 94 and December 22. So you've been a member of RIL for quite some time.
Yeah.
What was the relationship between RIL and KAFG?
I would say the leadership of KAFG, of community defence, of the work we did in East London, the Langdon Park Defence Campaign, and Movement for Justice, the leadership and perspective came from the RIL, the method and the understanding, but they were separate organisations. The RIL itself was very much concerned with political education. So we did studies. I was doing studies in Kingsway College on Marxism from the age of 16.
How many members were there of RIL?
It varied at different points. I think it never went above 10 for most of the period that this inquiry is concerned of. It was between 5 and 7, I think.
Their purpose, you say, was educational. Were they a Trotskyist group?
Yes.
And did that filter down then to KAFG? And we'll come on to MFJ. But were they Trotskyist as well in nature?
Oh, no, absolutely not. And those groups were much bigger than the RIL and contained people with many different political beliefs and persuasions.
Okay, so you mentioned the Shah Alam campaign, and in your witness statement you say you were a part of that and engaged with that between May 94 and July 1995. That came about because one of your student colleagues was attacked. Did that then lead into the formation of the MFJ, the Movement for Justice?
Yes, it did. It had a profound impact on all of us. The moment I remember the moment that I heard about Shah Alam. One of the KFG members came into my philosophy A-level class and described what happened to him. And I just remember I couldn't focus on my class after that. And I went to, there was a massive meeting in the big hall, and Shah's family, friends, and members of KFG were on the stage. And there was Bengali youth who were talking about like a constant barrage of racist attacks, school students who were getting beaten up daily going to and from school. It was living in an incredibly hostile environment, and Shah had been attacked by a gang of 12 white racists with bats and knives, and was very, very seriously unwell. And we had discussion about what was needed, and from the people on the platform, the Kingsway Anti-Fascist Group, the Student Union, and the family members and friends, were saying that what we need is community defence. What we need immediately is we need to stop these attacks from happening. We need to protect our communities. And that made so much sense to me. And I remember the moment that kind of sealed it for me was some member of a left group, can't remember who exactly it was, but they got up and they said, no, what we really need, there's going to be a massive TUC demonstration in 5 months' time or 3 months' time. We need to throw everything into building that demonstration because that's the most important thing. And I just remember thinking, that's ridiculous. I don't want to do that. What we need is to solve the immediate need, and the immediate need is community defence.
So you were looking for a very practical type of solution.
Yeah.
And so come the summer of 1995, we have the formation of the Movement for Justice. And in terms of the founding members, is it right that those were Alex Owolade, yourself, Tony Gard, and the person who the inquiry knows as Lewis?
Yeah, and there was others as well. At the founding meeting, there was people from the other campaigns. And I just want to say, Movement for Justice was formed when we lost Shah's campaign. His attackers walked free. And at that moment, we knew there had to be something more than just a family campaign, just responding to these racist deaths and deaths in custody. There had to be a movement that was much broader and bigger and making the wider points about racism, because we can't, at that time everyone was losing in the courts. Everyone was losing, all the victims of racist attacks, all the victims of police violence, everyone was losing in the courts, and we needed something more.
Is it right that you were a member of MFJ between the summer of 95 and December 2022?
Yes.
There were 3 main chairs of the MFJ between 95 and 22, is that right?
Correct.
And you set out that 2 were black and 1 was white. There were 2 men and 1 woman.
Correct.
So was it generally a very integrated organisation?
Yes. It was kind of hardwired into the politics of Movement for Justice that we were an integrated organisation committed to the leadership, developing the leadership of our black members, of our Asian members, of our gay members. We were a fully integrated organisation at all levels.
And by integrated, you mean in relation to race, gender and sexuality?
Correct.
Have you ever been the chair of MFJ?
No, I mean, I've chaired meetings, but I've never been the chair of MFJ.
What was your role throughout the period that we're looking at between 93 and 2008?
So I think I started off as secretary, and towards the latter period, so like 2017, like the latter period of this, I became treasurer.
Was there formal membership of MFJ?
No.
Did people pay their dues? Did they have to sign up?
No, anyone who agreed with what we were fighting for could join our meetings. Some people had standing orders, but not many. We weren't an organisation full of people who had a lot of money.
I think finances were generally a problem throughout the existence of the MFJ, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can we have on the display, please, MPS 40677? So it's behind tab B3 of the MFJ bundle. Karen Doyle's bundle, sorry. This is an intelligence report from the 11th of November 97, and it relates to the movement for justice and the first magazine that was published. It lists contributors, and there are 10 contributors. And the author of this is Windmill Tilter, who we know is HN81, otherwise known as Dave Hagan. And in it, he says that this is a comprehensive listing of the main activists within MFJ. Is that about right? Were there about 10 main activists?
At that time, our meetings were generally between 10 and 20 people every week. So, I mean, I can't see behind the privacy, but I think I remember that I recognise all those names.
You were an A-level student. What was the makeup of the group generally? Were they students or were they outside activists?
By the time... So by this time, this was 97.
Yeah.
I don't think I was a student anymore at that point. I was a student when Movement for Justice was first set up.
Okay.
But the makeup was a mix. It was a mix. It wasn't majority students. There was a lot of people who were working and in trade unions, as well as some students.
And a mix of ages as well?
Yeah.
The meetings were weekly, is that right? And integrated, a mix of races, genders, mostly in Brixton, is that right?
Correct.
And the attendance at those meetings, would that be between 6 and 30 people attending each meeting?
Yeah, I think that would be accurate.
Were the MFJ meetings open to anybody to attend?
Yeah, absolutely. We had, throughout that whole period, I used to joke it was our office. We had stalls every single Saturday at Brixton Station, rain or shine, where we gave out our materials and we would invite people to the meetings.
And when you say give out materials, they're flyers, the publication, that sort of thing?
Yeah.
And so was there anything that you did as a group that was not public?
No.
In terms of your campaigning for MFJ, what did that involve?
I've listed in my witness statement, it's quite extensive. I've listed in my witness statement all of the campaigns we did during that period. The three main tenets of Movement for Justice, I guess, would be standing against police racism, deaths in police custody, justice for victims of racist attacks, and rights for immigrants and asylum seekers. So we had those three broad areas of work. So within that, in the period mentioned, we did our anti-police harassment campaign, we did an anti-CS spray campaign, we supported numerous people who had been victims of racist attacks in Lambeth or police harassment in Lambeth. We organised around asylum seekers, and the big campaign that kicked off Movement for Justice was our non-cooperation with Howard's Immigration and Asylum Act. So that was when the government were first proposing, and it was unheard of at the time, sadly ubiquitous now, but they were first proposing that public sector workers would check people's immigration status before giving them treatment. So that was our first big campaign.
And in terms of how you went about that, was it petitions, letter writing, lobbying?
Yeah, so we did petitions a lot. This was before the internet, so it was all hard copy petitions, lobbies of MPs, demonstrations, marches, stalls, door-to-door, knocking on people. We did a lot of door-to-door work.
It suggested that the MFJ, whilst you say its purpose was fighting racism and fighting for immigration rights or immigrant rights, was it a front for real?
No, absolutely not. It was completely a different organisation, and if it had have been a front for the Rill, I suspect that the Rill would have been a lot bigger than we actually were through that entire period. It was there was people who had politics and beliefs that were antithetical to the Rill's politics and beliefs. So it was absolutely not a front for the Rill. It was a broad organisation.
And when you're fighting for people's rights, fighting against racism, you say part of the title of MFJ is by any means necessary. Mm-hmm. Can you explain what that means?
So I remember the discussions that we had when we were setting up Movement for Justice. The name Movement for Justice came first because our goal is to build a movement against racism. And by any means necessary came after, and it came from discussions because we were trying to find a way to mark the Movement for Justice as different from the kind of legal campaigns. And it really was a way of saying we don't let the state, the police, the government, the local council determine how we fight for justice, that we don't let the state set our timetable for justice. And so it came from Malcolm X in the US and the civil rights movement in the US. In fact, we regularly studied mainly the speeches of Martin Luther King, in fact. But yeah, that's where it came from. It came to say that we were going to determine our own methods of organising.
In fact, I think you set it out in your first publication. If you can have up on the display, please, UCPI 38053, page 10. This is behind tab A11, sir. So this is that first MFJ magazine in November 1997. And at page 10, in the middle of the page at the bottom, you set out what you mean by any means necessary. Mm-hmm. And you reference there Malcolm X, as you said. If we can just expand out a little bit so that we can see the next column as well. It gives a little bit more detail in relation to that. It's the third column.
Yeah. We must work for victories in those struggles, whether getting police suspended and prosecuted for their acts of violence, getting charges dropped against those framed by the police, preventing deportations or stopping racist sackings and victimisation. These victories have to be used to inspire more people with confidence that we can make a change by fighting back.
And you also set it out in the election campaign material for Alex Oluwade in 1998. If we can have up on screen, please, UCPI 38055. This is behind tab A13. At the bottom of that page, the explanation is set out quite clearly for those you are looking to obtain a vote from. Yeah. Why do we say by any means necessary? And again, you give an explanation in relation to that. And one of the examples right at the end is you say it's how we got rid of the poll tax by mass non-payment. Yeah. To what extent did fighting by any means necessary to secure rights and fight against fascism or racism, to what extent did it involve physical confrontation or violence?
Never in terms of any that was initiated by us. The only times that I can think where there was violence was instances of police violence. And this is the thing, when people talk about violence, and in the context of our movements, and it completely ignores the absolutely extreme violence that Black and Asian communities were facing at that time. Extreme violence from fascists. People like Joy Gardner had 13 feet of tape wrapped around her head by immigration police. That's violence. The most that we did was on the front line of a demonstration. If there was a line of police, we maybe didn't move and we'd get pushed by the police. That's it.
What about this idea, the notion that the way to fight violence is with violence? Can we infer from by any means necessary that you would support others in a violent campaign or violent action?
No. No, and we never did. If we were saying that, we would have said that in our publicity. If that was our politics, we would have said it. And I've supplied like reams of our publicity from the time. I went through all of my documents that I had from back in the 90s onwards, and I've supplied this inquiry with reams of it. And nowhere do we promote or say that this is the method that we will use. We will do things like, and I know Alex was asked about this, we will defend people who riot against police violence or racist violence, again, because you can't equate the reaction to violence with the actual violence that's being perpetrated against people. But we never promoted that as a method.
And when would that come about? Would that be on marches, on demonstrations?
In terms of
defending people who are responding to police violence, you say?
So, for example, when Derek Bennett was shot multiple times in the back on an estate in Brixton and murdered by police, we held a demonstration. After that demonstration, there was an uprising by local youth, and Alex was in the media the next day saying, we want the charges dropped. There is no comparison between people expressing their frustration, their anger, and at police violence, at racist violence, at fascist violence. There is no equating that with someone being shot in the back multiple times. You can't equate it. We did a campaign to get all the charges dropped, and we were actually successful. There was no one charged in the end for that.
Is it your evidence then that a certain amount of violence or physical confrontation is justified so long as it doesn't meet the violence that police impose on others?
What we're talking about is defence. What Movement for Justice was engaged in was defence of our communities, defence against racist attack, against police violence. Those are defensive actions. I do not consider them violent actions.
In document MPS 0721941 at page 4, this is a statement by HN81 from 2013. David Hagan, or HN81, describes MFJ as a Trotskyist organisation with the ultimate objective of revolution by any means.
Yeah, it's rubbish.
Is that an accurate description?
Absolutely inaccurate. I think if that was our aim, you'd see it in our materials, and it isn't in our materials.
And that is despite the leadership of RIL being Trotskyist in nature.
Yeah.
Were you looking for a revolution?
Was I personally looking for a revolution?
Well, MFJ or the people who were members of MFJ?
No, MFJ wasn't. MFJ was concerned about winning justice. That's what MFJ was concerned about. And that doesn't require a revolution to win justice.
I'd like to move on then to SDS reporting. In terms of reporting from HN43, Peter Francis, were you aware of somebody called Peter Johnson, Peter Daly, or Peter Black within your organisation?
No.
For reporting on organisations that were affiliated with MFJ?
Honestly, no. I can't remember him at all. I've read his reporting, and obviously I was in Kingsway where he was, and I was in the anti-fascist group. Genuinely can't remember him.
We understand that he was not active in MFJ from the point at which it was established in 1995 in any event. But there was one incident that you mentioned in 1995, you've already touched upon it, and that is the one in the context of the campaign for non-cooperation with the Immigration and Asylum Bill, Stop the Bill. That was a campaign that ran from 1995 to 1996, is that right?
Correct, yeah.
You said that that was the first big campaign in response to the Conservative government's announcing a new immigration and asylum bill. Can you just explain what your campaign involved in relation to that?
So we campaigned for a campaign, like we were organising in the trade unions to get people to pass motions saying that they would not cooperate with the new bill, because it was asking, it was saying teachers, nurses, doctors, housing workers would have to check people's immigration status before providing them with care, treatment, you know, and I realised this took labour to bring all of that in, but so we were asking for non-cooperation, we did leafleting, I think we had some demonstrations, we did lobbies, I remember a big lobby at Parliament. Yeah, that was what the campaign was.
And in November Miss Doyle, you said that race did not dictate who you handed leaflets to.
No.
Did it dictate who could become a member of the group?
No.
And how do you feel knowing that your group was targeted ultimately because you happened to be there on that weekend or active in the Brixton area?
I mean, the whole thing is just outrageous. It's just wandering around Brixton and seeing who gives you a leaflet and go to their meeting. I mean, I feel disgusted by everything that was done by the SDS overall and in this particular period.
I'd like to ask you about the infiltration by HN81 into MFJ, how he did that and a bit about his legend. At paragraph 17 of your witness statement, you say you can't remember exactly how David Hagan became involved, but does this assist that it's probably through picking up a leaflet on Brixton High Street? Did you always invite people to public meetings if they showed an interest?
Yes, absolutely.
And can we take it from that it was fairly easy to infiltrate your organisation?
Oh, yeah, it would have been absolutely easy. We were completely open.
So you were quite welcoming to
Yeah.
people?
Yeah, like I say, we had our weekly stall at Brixton, we had our weekly meetings in Brixton, we had various big public meetings. All of it was public and anyone could come.
Were you security conscious as a group of activists?
We were security conscious to the extent that, so I think I say in my, because the question was asked by the inquiry about our approach to possible police infiltration. So we had an awareness that we could possibly be targeted for infiltration. I think any left organisation or campaigning organisation is aware of that. But our position was always, there's nothing we can do about this type of police spying, because we're concerned with building a mass democratic public campaign, and in that situation you can't have closed meetings, you can't vet everyone, you can't, you don't check up on people like you're trying to build a mass movement. So we couldn't do anything about this kind of thing. There was occasionally people who we were concerned were more agent provocateur types, because they were disruptive or proposing particularly violent things, or things that we were really suspicious of, and those we would just ask to leave. We would say, no, your views don't align with us. In terms of security conscious on demonstrations, we were always very aware of trying to prevent arrests, and so we were security conscious in that way.
Did you have meetings where it was by invite only, a smaller closed group?
No. I don't recall any meetings where it was like that. I don't recall.
Did you conduct any background checks on people when they joined? What was HN81's character, his behaviour like in general, very briefly?
He was a very depressive character, so he was very very depressed. He was a very depressed person. He seemed down a lot of the time. He was quite calm. He was quiet, most of the time.
Did he take up any positions of influence within the MFJ?
No.
What sort of activities would he engage with generally?
He would come to our public meetings, he'd come to the demonstrations or the interventions in like Lambeth Police Community Consultative Group. He'd occasionally, because we were doing a lot. We were effectively pretty much every evening sometimes doing door-to-door and flyering and calling. There was always something going on, but he didn't engage himself in that as much, in the kind of organising, day-to-day organising work. It was mainly the meetings, and we could trust that he would be one person who would turn up to an event.
And how did you contact him? Was it via mobile phone, or would you ever attend at his home?
No, I've never been to his home. It would have been by mobile phone.
Was that usual amongst the people in MFJ? So would you contact people by their phones?
Yes, phones. I think we had an email list as well, but email wasn't as used then. It was mainly phones.
Did you attend meetings at each other's homes?
No, absolutely
Did
not.
you socialise as a group outside of the MFJ?
No, no, there was no socialising. Sorry, it makes it sound really miserable. But
I'm just wondering who would want to join your group.
We didn't meet in pubs. We didn't, no, there was none of that. We weren't, even to be honest, even among the Rill, it wasn't a friendship group. You know, we were brought together by a shared politics. We all had very separate personal lives.
So can I take it from that there weren't relationships between the people who were part of the group? There were no sexual relationships?
No.
Amongst people?
No, and well, obviously not that I'm aware of, and not that we would be concerned by.
Did you know anything about HN1's personal life?
No.
Whether he had a partner or anything like that?
I don't think he had a partner. I think he would have probably said that, but no, I wasn't aware of his personal life. I can't even remember what he said he did for a job. I remember the story he told coming in, and I remember the story he told going out, but I can't remember much else.
So what was the story of him coming in?
Oh, he came from Hereford, I believe. It was a very racist area, very conservative. It was a difficult family. He came to London. He became an anarchist. No. He joined the SWP first, became disillusioned with them, became an anarchist, became disillusioned with them, joined Movement for Justice.
I'll come to the withdrawal and what you knew about his reason for leaving later on. In terms of his main areas of interest, you've spoken about how he engaged, but in terms of his specific issues that he was interested in, what can you tell us about that?
His laser focus was on police and fascism. He wasn't remotely interested in our asylum work, and we did, because we were a local-based organisation. We also supported campaigns like against the cuts to the local playgrounds, to the adventure playgrounds, or to SEN provision, and we'd go along with parents to lobbies of the council. He wasn't interested in any of that. It was overwhelmingly police and fascism. Even though we didn't do much anti-fascist work actually in that period, he was always pushing us to do more.
And when you say he was always pushing you to do more, in what sense? How did he do that?
The classic example is the Dover incident, where his report says, a group of MFJ went down. No one from MFJ was intending to go down to Dover that day. No one wanted to go down. He kept raising it.
So I'd like to ask you a little bit more about that in detail. Did he raise issues in meetings and that sort of thing in terms of the direction of MFJ?
Yeah, and he was always encouraging us to focus on the police and to maintain that campaigning. Not that we would have lost that side to our campaigning, but that was his interest and his focus, and trying to get us to do anti-fascist work.
I'd like to display, please, MPS 40643. It's behind tab B2 of the bundle. This is a report by Windmill Tilter, HN81, dated the 3rd of the 11th, 97. The information obtained was the 31st of October 97, and it relates to a meeting on the 24th of the 10th 97. And it says that 11 people attended the MFJ meeting at Brixton Road, which discussed the forthcoming demonstration on the 15th of November 97. Now, it may be, I'm going to show you another document in a moment, which is your minute, or MFJ's minutes of this meeting. And you'll note that the date is slightly different. It's the 23rd of the 10th, 97. Mm-hmm. Just on that point, the 23rd of the 10th, 97 would have been a Thursday, and the 24th of the 10th, 97 would have been a Friday.
Our meetings were always on a Thursday.
They were on a Thursday. Okay. So can we take it then that this date, the 24th of the 10th, 97, as recorded in this intelligence report, is inaccurate? It should have been the 23rd.
Yeah, we would never meet on a Friday.
And it notes that the agreed central themes should remain as, and then he bullet points them, first being opposition to police harassment and intimidation, second, opposition towards racist asylum and immigration policies, and the third, support of ethnic minority issues. And then it would seek to involve itself in other issues such as student grants. And it goes on to say at the bottom, there's comment on the inquest of Oscar Okoye. Do you recall that meeting?
I don't recall it, but when I was preparing my statement, I found the minutes of that meeting. I mean, we met every week. I'm not going to recall every meeting, but the minutes would have been an accurate account of what happened. And can I just say, we would never use the term ethnic minority. We were actually against that term. I don't know where this comes from.
Those 3 points that he sets out, it looks like those are the 3 main demands for the demonstration on the 15th of November. Is that right?
I assume so, but we would never say support of ethnic minority. I mean, it's a nonsense. What does it even mean?
If we can go then to the minutes of the meeting and display UCPI 38054. This is behind tab A12, sir. We can see here the heading is the minutes of the Lambeth Movement for Justice meeting on the 23rd of October 1997. So that would have been the Thursday evening. And present, it includes Alex. Is that Alex Olawade?
Yes.
Dave, would that be?
Hagan.
Dave Hagan. You are named there, and Tony. Is that Tony Gard?
Yes.
And we can see that there are a number of issues that are set out in some detail as to what was discussed during that meeting, and it's a bit more extensive than what was actually reported. These minutes, who would receive a copy of the minutes?
We used to discuss them at the following meeting and vote on them just to agree they were accurate. So someone would take the minutes, type them up, and then we'd bring them along to the next meeting. I assume that this is the hard, because I only had it in hard copy and it had Alex's writing on it, so I assume it's one I picked up at the next meeting.
Okay. So that would have been available by the 30th of October?
Yeah.
And
anyone who came to the subsequent meeting would have these minutes.
And everybody would be given a copy, would
Yes.
they? We can see under the second heading, paragraph 3 under the second heading, which is the Lambeth Youth Workers dispute. Was that a significant dispute that you were engaged with as a group?
Yeah, no, we supported the Lambeth Youth Workers. Obviously, Alex was a Unison steward as well. And like I say, we often supported local issues.
And we can see in the third paragraph under that heading, there's a discussion. And Dave raised the danger of Movement for Justice trying to take on too much and losing focus on police brutality. Do you recall that discussion and the contribution made by Dave Hagan?
I don't think I recall that, I can't say that I recall that specific discussion, but he regularly made those kind of interventions into the meeting when we talked about issues other than police brutality. So it's typical of him.
And we can see in the final sentence there that there was general agreement that the central focus was fighting racism. And Lewis said the policy of Movement for Justice was whatever members decided it was, and there would have to be more discussions like this.
Yeah,
So
accurate.
So from that, can we take it that there was a bit of a discussion and the general agreement was our focus is fighting racism in its broadest terms? Or?
In its broadest terms, and you know, a lot of those cuts were racist in nature, and we argued that. But yeah, we had those kind of discussions in the meeting where there was disagreements, and you know, we discussed them, resolved them.
And so, if we can decrease that a little bit, we can see that the bottom paragraph is in relation to the inquest on Oscar Okoye. And there's some reference there, isn't there, to what was going on with the legal team and the approach to the inquest. And at the bottom of the next page, we can see that the next meeting was for Thursday, the 30th of October, 7 o'clock. And that's standard, is it? The meetings were held on a Thursday around 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
And so comparing the two documents, do you think that the intelligence report that went to the SDS from Dave Hagan was a fair representation of what that meeting was all about?
No, not at all.
Can we move then to HN 81's reporting more generally? You've already touched upon the fact that as a movement, as the group, you were involved in a lot of campaigns between 95 and 2008, the period that the inquiry is interested in. I'd like to ask you about a few of those in a little more detail. The first one is the March for Justice, which is justice for victims of police brutality and organising against police harassment. And that is a campaign that you say lasted from 97 to 98. How long did that run for during that time?
I kind of, when I was putting it together, I kind of bracketed a number of things under that campaign because it included campaigning around the Don't Walk On By campaign and the the video stalker campaign, Operation Tippet, and the deaths in police custody. So it went on for quite a long period, really.
One of the documents you refer to is MPS 40561. If we could have that up on screen, please, behind tab B1. And this is a meeting of the Movement for Justice on the 1st of October, and 12 people attended. It's in relation to the March for Justice, which was to be held on the 1st of November 1997. It's noted that of the 12 who attended in this first paragraph, there were 7 men, 3 of whom were white, and 5 women, 1 of whom was white. Was it important to you to note the race of those people attending?
No.
Paragraph 3. It was noted that due to a lack of numbers and the shortness of time, they should concentrate publicity on the locality where the march will take place. Is it right to say that that march was not very well publicised?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so, as we can see in paragraph 4, you were only expecting about 50 people to turn up. Was that a regular sort of attendance on marches that you helped to organise?
Yeah. Most of our actions were between 10 and 20 people, like if you're talking about demonstrations at hearings or police consultative group or council or anything like that. Occasionally we had a march that went into the 100 or a couple of hundred, but that was during that period rare.
And what was the frequency of public disorder breaking out at marches or demonstrations like that?
Never.
Can we display, please, MPS 40643 behind tab B2? This again is in relation to a meeting in relation to the March for Justice. It's now going to be held on the 15th of November. It looks like the date has been postponed a bit. Is that right?
See, I can't remember exactly. I would have, in my witness statement, I would have put the times, because I was looking at all the materials, but I can't remember the dates.
Okay. So this is a meeting on the 24th of October 97. 11 people attended. Race of people, gender of people not noted this time. We can see from and we can see that the central themes, this is a document we looked at before, would be those three key focal points of the march. Is that right?
Well, those themes are not the focus of the march. They're his spin on what we talked about.
And paragraph 3, we can see that there were big ambitions for the group to spread throughout London and then around the UK, but at present, other than Kingsway College, that plan has to still has to materialise. So was it the case that in 1997 there was just the group at Kingsway College? That was where it was based?
And the Lambeth group. It was mainly the Lambeth group and Kingsway College.
So there were in fact two bases for the group.
And actually during that period we did also we had people at other places. So we had members in College of North East London, for sure, Greenhill College in Harrow. But in terms of established organised groups, it was the Lambeth group and the Kingsway group.
And how many in each group? What kind of ballpark numbers are we talking about?
I mean, like the Lambeth group is an interesting one because we had massive widespread support, like just massive widespread support. But in terms of the active membership, people who came to meetings, it would never be more than 30 at a time. The Kingsway group, again, widespread support among the student body, but in terms of active members, between 10 and 20.
And we can see that the funds were £61 at this stage.
Yeah.
What about in terms of office space, resources, what did you have?
We had nothing. We were using our personal computers, our personal phones. Trade unions would sometimes help us with photocopying and materials for banners or placards and stuff. But yeah, we had no resources.
And it's suggested that explains why no posters have been produced advertising this March for Justice. So again, fairly low level of publication or advertising.
Yeah.
Can we have on display, please, MPS 40688? You can see in paragraph 1 of this report, which is on the dated the 17th of November 97, we can see that the march went ahead on the 15th of November 1997. Approximately 70 people attended, considered quite a good turnout. Is that fair?
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, that was a good turnout.
And the march was a peaceful affair with no arrests or disorder. Do you recall the meeting? The march?
The march, I do recall that march, yeah. It was raining a lot. It was very wet.
The source comment at the end is that the main purpose of the march was to recruit and raise money for the MFJ. Is that accurate?
I mean, if that was the main purpose of the march, we would have a lot more money than £61. Of course it wasn't the main purpose of the march. It's ridiculous.
Do you recall if you did recruit a lot of people following that march?
See, wouldn't use the word recruit either. Like, people would have joined Movement for Justice, come to our meetings or not come to our meetings, or come for a bit and left for a bit. Like, I don't think we would have used the word recruit. I can't remember if anyone knew from that march. I expect not. I expect with 70 people, it was mostly people we were already aware of.
Would it be fair to characterise the group as in flux depending on what people were interested in? So people might come to a meeting that was to do with student cuts to funds, but they might not come to something to do with the local council if they weren't involved.
Yeah,
with it.
absolutely. And Movement for Justice was very responsive to the people who came to we were very much a community organisation. We were rooted in the community. So when people, when parents of SEN children came to our meeting because they wanted support to lobby the council, we would help them with that. We would do that. So we were responsive to what people brought to the meeting.
Can I ask you about another campaign, the Zero Tolerance to Police Harassment, Don't Walk On By, End Stop and Search campaign? If I can have on display, please, UCPI 38060. It's your Exhibit 17 behind A18. Page 8, please. This was a campaign, was it, about having members of the public observe where somebody has been stopped and searched by police in the Brixton-Lambeth area?
Correct.
And can you just explain, we can see down at the bottom of this page, what you're advising people to do in this leaflet if you see the police stopping someone? Mm-hmm. Very briefly, can you just summarise that for us?
We say to people, stop, don't walk on by, gather other people to stop, observe, check the person's okay, get their phone number if you can. We always said, as you see, if you are stopped and searched, stay calm, give your name and address. Sticking together is the best way to defeat police harassment. Stay calm. The police may threaten you with obstructing an arrest, but you have every right to observe what is going on. So we provided people with a combination of legal advice, but we were also saying we're not going to let people continually face these racist stops without support from their community. It's a very isolating experience to be stopped by the police multiple times. I remember going to the Adventure Playground in Brixton and meeting a school student who had been stopped 3 times in one day in his school uniform, a young black man. He was only, he was a boy, he was like 12 years old. 3 times in one day. That's the level of police harassment we were talking about. And it's an incredibly lonely experience to go through that, and we wanted people to know that they weren't on their own. And here's the advice, here's the legal advice, here are your rights, and the community is going to respond and going to support you.
You said that the police may threaten you with obstruction.
Yeah.
Were you encouraging people to obstruct the police?
No, I mean that's what the police would do if one person stopped and checked what was going on. Not interfering at all, but just like, why are you stopping him, or asking the person, are you okay? You'd get a police officer saying, oh, move away, we'll charge you with obstruction. So it was a threat that the police carried out. It wasn't that they would make to people doing this, and we just wanted to warn people that they'll threaten that, but you're not doing anything wrong.
Was there any sense that you were encouraging people to physically intervene with a stop and search?
No. Like, as in physically touch the police officers? Absolutely not. We wanted people to stand around and watch and verbally check what was happening.
Did you have any sense of how many times this sort of observation took place?
It happened a lot. It was a very successful campaign. It was happening before we did the campaign, I think, but I think the campaign gave it form, and it was happening more and more through that period.
When you say it was happening before the campaign, do you mean just generally people, members of the public walking by,
would
seeing
stop.
something and keeping an eye out, observing?
Yeah.
while we're on this document, if we can go back to page 1, please. This is in relation to Operation Shutdown. Do you remember an initiative by the Brixton Police in relation to, I think it was an anti-robbery initiative, was it? Where police officers were stopping people they thought were known criminals and taking videos of them.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Again, I can't remember the details from my memory of the time. I'm looking at kind of what we've got in front of us here, and I remember it. It was this diffuse notion of who are the known criminals, who are the suspects, and that they would just jump out and film people. And we put questions to the Chief Superintendent Foy of Brixton Police in the Police Consultative Group about it.
So that's what we can see at the bottom of the first column on the left. We can see that Movement for Justice attended last Tuesday's Lambeth Community and Police Consultative Group. What was that group? What was the purpose of that?
It was a group that was set up after the Brixton uprisings and the Scarman Report in the 80s. So I think it was one of the first of its kind in the country. It was basically a community police consultative group. So it was members of the local community who would hold meetings, regular meetings. Members of the community would go to it, the police would go to it, and there would be discussion about police racism or issues to do with policing in the area.
Were people encouraged to attend these meetings?
Yeah.
Were you as a group encouraged to attend the meeting?
Yeah. We regularly attended the meeting.
And we can see the 9 questions that you set out and posed to Chief Superintendent Foy, who was head of Brixton Police at that time.
Yeah.
Had he had any previous warning about those questions that were going to be put to him about this initiative?
I can't remember. I don't imagine he did. I imagine we raised it at we probably wrote it quickly in the run-up to the meeting, and we would have put it in to the meeting for discussion.
If I can draw your attention perhaps to the paragraph underneath the questions in bold, it does say that when it was pointed out that he received the questions in advance of the meeting and that other people had raised similar concerns at the previous meeting a month ago, Foy was forced to agree to meeting with the MFJ and other people from the community in 3 weeks' time to respond to all the questions.
Yeah.
Does that?
Yeah, it makes sense that we would have submitted the questions in advance.
Do you recall meeting with him 3 weeks later?
I remember that there was a meeting.
Okay. And was he able to answer the questions?
I wasn't in that meeting, so I can't remember. Alex would have been at that meeting, I think.
But the questions essentially were about the lawfulness, the use of the initiative of speculative videoing of people thought to be known criminals in the Brixton area.
Yeah, what was their criteria? It was all kind of detailed questions about the plan.
And these were people known to the police?
Well, that's what they said.
Can we have up on screen, please, MPS 302285? It's behind tab B152 of the MFJ bundle. So we can see that this is about a meeting on the 27th of July 1999. It was the MFJ's intention to hold a demonstration outside Brixton Police Station in response to Chief Superintendent Foy's acceptance of a meeting with MFJ over the anti-robbery initiative that is being carried out in the area. The source comment, paragraph 2, says that Owolade was widely congratulated after the meeting by other members from the audience. Who were in the audience? Who were the other people that were attending that meeting?
It was always, all the ones I attended were always really well attended, just members of the local community. Generally just members of the local community.
Okay. Paragraph 3, please. Oh, sorry, it's up on screen already, that second paragraph under the source comment. HN 81 windmill tilter says that MFJ do not anticipate many people will attend this meeting in 3 weeks' time. However, if only 20 or 30 appear and Foy does not recognise their legitimacy or refuses to meet, he will be providing ammunition for the MFJ to use in their propaganda campaign. To what extent do you accept that this was a propaganda campaign around that policing initiative?
So a propaganda campaign is putting out materials and information about something. To that extent, it was a propaganda campaign, but it blows my mind that Hagen was providing advice to the local police on how to interact with us and with members of the community who are raising legitimate concerns about police harassment.
Okay. The final paragraph, please, is another source comment which presents your approach as a group and your line of argument, if you like, which is to show why this initiative would be deemed racist. Can you just explain that to us? Is this a true representation of what MFJ were arguing in relation to this campaign?
See, I can't remember in specific relation to this campaign. We had a wide-ranging campaign in that period to abolish stop and search, and there were statistics showing the disproportionality and racism of stop and search, and that it didn't, in fact, stop crime. And we use that a lot. So I'm not sure what this is referring to. The specific pilot scheme, I can't actually remember the details of that. But I think we definitely would have been suspicious about it, and the questions reflect what our suspicions were.
It says halfway down that paragraph, if Foy cannot provide effective answers, he will be accused of not having control over his officers who have been proven to be institutionally racist. That's a harking back, isn't it, to the Stephen Lawrence inquiry. Is that something you were using to effectively batter Chief and Superintendent Foy with, this argument that his officers were institutionally racist?
The police were institutionally racist, and we didn't shy away from saying that. So I'm not sure what that's...
He says essentially MFJ's line will be that an institution that has itself been deemed racist cannot use discretion because decisions are being made from a racist perspective. What do you make about that interpretation of what your policy or line of argument is?
It's not the language we would have used, but I think it's valid to say that an institutionally racist police force exercising discretion is going to exercise it in a racist manner. I think that's fair comment.
Can I have up on screen, please, HN81's witness statement, MPS 0748738. Paragraph 94, please. At paragraph 94, we can see that HN81 says, by the time I started associating with MFJ, the public order interest rose from their active opposition to stop and search. The last sentence of that paragraph, do you see that?
Yes, I do.
So what was the public order element of this active opposition to stop and search, as far as you can recall?
I'd like to know that. I don't think there was a public order.
Was there any disorder caused around this campaign?
No.
What about paragraph 95, please? He refers to the campaign as creating a zero police tolerance zone, and he suggests that this was not lawful. He says, I do not believe that the suggestion of creating a zero police tolerance zone was lawful. That the inference here is that there would be estates or areas within the Brixton area that people would not tolerate police entering at all, and that wasn't a lawful position for any member of the public to take. What's your response to that?
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. We weren't having a zero police tolerance zone. We weren't creating no-go areas for the police. We were creating a situation where the police couldn't carry out racist harassment. It was a zero tolerance to police harassment campaign. The fact that Hagen omits that from his reports is telling about his intentions and the SDS's intentions and their views. Our campaign was to stop racist police harassment and injustices. It wasn't to create some no-go zone or zero police tolerance zone. I mean, it's not even the language we used. It's ridiculous.
So effectively, it's the difference between zero tolerance to police harassment and zero police tolerance zone.
Yeah.
Two very different things, you say.
Completely different.
Can I have up, please, MPS 0721941, page 4. This is HN81's statement from 2013. It's paragraph 3 and 4 of this page, please. About halfway down that first paragraph, he said, I was able to identify MFJ with the cause of most of the difficulties for Brixton Police under the charge of Chief Superintendent Simon Foy. Mr. Foy knew there was a source in the field, but I do not know whether he knew it was a police officer. I considered Mr. Foy to be very capable and armed with reliable and timely intelligence. He was able to deal effectively with the chaos generated by MFJ, who were running an anti-stop and search campaign, essentially a vehicle to promote violent opposition to the police by the local community. To what extent were you aware of members of the local community violently opposing the police during stops and searches?
I wasn't aware.
And again, reference in the next sentence is this: MFJ is a Trotskyist organisation with the ultimate objective of revolution by any means. I think you've addressed that, haven't you? And you don't accept that. Was it fair to say that MFJ were at the time a thorn in the side of Chief Superintendent Foy?
Yes, yeah. We were holding the police to account for racist harassment and injustice. We also intervened to get the police to do more for people who've been victims of racist attack in the borough.
So I note the time. Is that an opportune moment to break for a quarter of an hour?
Certainly. And for the benefit of the transcribers, we have a quarter of an hour break in the morning and a slightly shorter one in the afternoon.
Doyle, we spoke about the Lambeth Police Consultative Committee. Was that an opportunity for members of the community to engage with the police about matters of policing?
Yes.
How often did that meet?
I believe it was monthly, but I can't be sure about that, but I think it was monthly.
And whilst you said you were a thorn in the side of Chief Superintendent Foy, were there attempts to engage with Mr Foy over policing of the borough?
Yeah, him and Brian Paddock, I remember we met with, who was the subsequent police commander, and you saw that we submitted him questions, we met with him.
In terms of the MFJ public meetings, those that focused on policing issues, what would have been MFJ's reaction or your personal reaction if a local police officer had turned up to sit, listen, engage?
If they came to one of our public meetings, I think we would ask them to leave, honestly. It wasn't a forum that we would want. People wouldn't feel able to talk openly about their experiences if there was a police officer in the room and we needed people to feel safe to speak.
What about other opportunities for members of the public and your group to engage with police over policing matters? Were there any other channels?
That would happen through the police consultative group most often. So I think I gave some examples in my witness statement. For example, a couple who were subject to a brutal racist attack, who were having lots of trouble getting the police to investigate. We brought them to the police consultative meeting. We pulled the chief inspector aside afterwards. They spoke to him, and it ended up that their attackers were prosecuted in the end. So we intervened mainly through the police consultative group.
And what did that do in terms of police reputation amongst the people that would attend the consultative group? Did that aid it? Did it just encourage more discord within the community towards the police?
It depends how the police responded to a given issue.
Operation Tippet. I'm moving now to a report of the 17th of November 2000. It's MPS 0004677. It's behind tab B257 of the MFJ bundle, sir. What can you tell us about Operation Tippet? Do you recall that?
See, I remember the name, and I remember Operation Tippet, and that we had a campaign against it. Can't actually remember the content of what Operation Tippet was, but we had a whole campaign around it.
Okay. Another police initiative in the area of Brixton, was it?
There was many through that period. There was many kind of police initiatives through that period that we intervened on. So I can't remember the specifics of Operation Tippet.
It's reported as an opportunity for MFJ because it was likely to build resentment towards police in the area and had been introduced without any consultation with the Police Consultative Committee. This action had embarrassed and undermined the Consultative Committee. Can you tell us anything about the consultation process that is involved where a police initiative is tried, tested in the community, and the Police Consultative Committee is looking to consult with the local population? How does that work? We weren't involved in the chairing or the panel of the Police Consultative Group, but my understanding was that they met with the police pretty regularly outside of the public meetings, and the police would run by them any initiatives that may cause concern from people in the community. They would generally run it by the Police Consultative Committee, is my understanding. You'd have to ask someone who was on the committee about that, because we only attended the public meetings. Okay. And what do you say about this suggestion that it represented an opportunity for MFJ because it was likely to build resentment towards police? Is that something you would jump on as a bit of something to boost your reputation within the community?
I mean, it's just ridiculous. We were responding to police harassment, racism, racist attacks. Like, these things weren't opportunities. They were things we were trying to fight and win. We were trying to win people getting prosecuted for racist attacks. We were trying to win police officers getting prosecuted for racist attacks. We were trying to empower people to act against police harassment. Like, none of those, like, it's just everything about the way these reports is phrased is through the institutionally racist lens of the SDS and their undercover officers. It does not reflect Movement for Justice's beliefs, perspective, or what we did.
Was it ever an aim for MFJ to break down that relationship between police and people within the local community?
It was already broken. It was broken years before Movement for Justice was set up. That the relationship between the Metropolitan Police and London's Black and Asian communities was profoundly broken in this period, and it was broken by years, decades of failures to go after the racists who were attacking people and brutalizing people and murdering people. And it was of years of Operation Swamp in the 80s, of stop and search, of racist targeting of black communities and fitting up of people. It was already broken. We didn't have to do anything to break down the relationship between the police and the community.
Thank you. I'm going to move on to different topic now. The Colin Tomlinson case. Can I display, please, MPS 0002308. This is an intelligence report on the MFJ dated the 27th of July 1999. So it's behind tab B153 of the MFJ bundle. This is in relation to the case of Colin Tomlinson, who claims to have been beaten up by police in Brixton. Is this something that you have a recollection of?
It's only a vague, I can't remember the details of his case. I remember the name, and I remember that it was an issue of someone who had been beaten up by police, but I can't remember the details of a lot of that time.
It says that MFJ hoped to attract both Tomlinson and his lawyer to their meeting with Chief Superintendent Foy of Brixton tonight, which was the 27th of July 99. But regardless of his attendance, they will highlight his case by demanding that police provide CCTV coverage of the incident. Was that something that was open to you? Did you regularly use a channel to meet with Chief Superintendent Foy over particular cases like this?
I mean, it wasn't a regular occurrence that we met with the police. I can only think of this and a meeting with Brian Paddock, like separately to the police consultative group. But yeah, we often pulled him aside after the police consultative group about particular cases. And yes, we had those definitely 2 meetings that I recall. I can't recall if there was any others.
The last paragraph, I think, on this document. Sorry, no, it's the paragraph before. In relation to the CCTV, the case of the Brixton bomber demonstrates how well the area is covered by cameras, and consequently it will be difficult for the police to convince people that the incident was not covered by camera. Can you recall what happened in relation to that and whether there was CCTV footage provided?
I doubt they gave us the CCTV footage. We would have asked for it, and we would have pointed out that it's clearly covered that area because it had all come out, the coverage of the Brixton bomber. But I can't recall whether we got it or not in that period. But I just want to say as well, like, what is Hagan? Is he the PR relations manager for the police? Like, he's providing advice to the local police about how to respond to us. It's gross.
It's obviously reporting on a legal matter as well. It's whether this person, Colin Tomlinson, was there any suggestion that he might bring a civil action against the police? Do you recall that?
Can't recall. I mean, it probably would have been likely, but I can't recall.
In terms of legal affairs, who would be involved and speak about that when somebody came to your group for assistance? What of your members would sit down and talk about a legal strategy approach for somebody?
Our meetings were open, so people would often come to our meetings who had been victims of attack or by police or by fascists, and they would talk about their case, and we would have a discussion with them. In a number of cases like this, someone like Alex would probably meet with them separately as well to get more in-depth detail about what had happened.
We can see that a lawyer is involved here in relation to this meeting with Chief Superintendent Foy, whether that was for civil or criminal proceedings. Would that be something that Alex would be the prime person to be involved with? Would he be the one that would sit down with people who were looking for support from your group?
I think most likely Alex during that period, yeah.
There's another legal matter that I want to ask you a question about. MPS 0003397, please. Is a report of the 22nd of May 2000. And this is in relation to a London Tonight programme, a fly-on-the-wall documentary following Brixton Police. And I think what happened was somebody's shop was raided, and there was no evidence to support that he had been handling stolen mobile phones, and that he had turned to Bindman solicitors for help, and they'd advised him to seek a letter of apology from the local chief superintendent, which would have been Mr. Foy. Is that right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
It does go on to say that armed with such an apology, they will then seek to sue the police for damages, and should no such letter be forthcoming, then they anticipate many years of legal wrangling with an uncertain result at the end. To assist him in this quest for an apology, Privacy has sought the assistance of MFJ and the Lambeth Police Consultative Committee. So, do you recall this particular case?
I do recall it because it was, I remember him speaking about the impact of that TV coverage. It was devastating for him and his business.
Would his case have been a matter of an MFJ public meeting?
No, it would have been all of our meetings were public. It would have been one of our weekly meetings that we discussed it.
So when you say a weekly meeting, is that a smaller?
It's a smaller group, but it's open, so we often have new people coming. So it wasn't, but it was a weekly meeting. It would have probably been the core organisers who were there.
And when specific matters are being dealt with, so legal advice, legal strategy, you've said that Alex would often speak with the legal team and the person involved.
Yeah.
To what extent was David Hagan involved in those either one-to-one or small group meetings?
He would have been at the weekly meetings. I don't think he would have been involved in the more one-to-one meetings that Alex would have with people that were more in depth. And I don't think he would have been involved in a meeting with a solicitor. But, you know, in this situation, this guy came to our meeting, our weekly meeting, and he said this. He said that this is what I need to get so that I can pursue my case. And Hagan reported on it. He's essentially telling the police, don't do the letter of apology, because if you do, it opens you up to civil liability. I mean, he's giving the police heads up on a legal strategy that someone brought to our meeting, which is pretty disgraceful.
I'd like to move to the ban on CS spray campaign.
Yeah.
So this is a campaign around 1998. There are a number of different reports on this. I don't intend to go to all of them, but to set this in context, you say in your statement that this was a successful local campaign involving protests, lobbying the Lambeth Community Police Consultative Group, public meetings, lobbying MPs, and such like. Ibrahim Say is somebody that we've heard about in this inquiry. He died after being assaulted, restrained and sprayed by CS spray in 1996. Mm-hmm. And at this stage in 97, 98, you say there was a growing evidence of the dangers of CS spray in general, and particularly the form of CS spray used by the MPS. Was that the basis for the campaign at the time?
Yes.
Can we have up on screen, please, MPS 40717. It's behind tab B5. This is a report of the 14th. I imagine that's supposed to say the 12th, 14th of December 1997. We can see that it relates to a meeting of the Lambeth Police Consultative Committee on the 2nd of December 1997, when 10 members from the MFJ attended. And you were there in order to protest against the introduction of CS spray at Brixton Police Station. Is that something that you recall?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I can't recall the specifics. I think we raised the CS spray campaign in multiple of the police consultative community groups.
We can see in paragraph 2 that essentially the demand was that CS spray should not be introduced by the police in Brixton until proper consultation had taken place. Had that not occurred then? Can we take it that there'd been no consultation about CS spray?
No, there had not. And this was, so in October 1997, that was the unlawful killing verdict for Ibrahim Say. So this was kind of following on from that.
It notes that the committee had originally asked for more information from the police on CS spray prior to its introduction, but the information had not been forthcoming. Stoked by the MFJ, though, there was this attitude angered a large number of people in the public gallery. Sorry, I should have read the sentence before that. It says, however, most of the members were happy that the spray should continue to be available whilst they awaited for more information, and that's what that was something that angered MFJ and then the others who were there in attendance at the meeting. Do you recall that?
I do, and I would say that even if MFJ had not been in that meeting, the community would have been angered by the committee saying, oh, well, bring it in anyway, even though we don't know the dangers. That didn't need MFJ to stoke anyone. People were angry that this dangerous weapon was being given to the police in a context where there was daily police harassment. So it didn't need us to stoke anything.
Moving to the comment on this page. We can see that the events were seen as a success by the MFJ. Essentially, the meeting was paused, and the disorder was pre-planned by them, meaning MFJ, with the main protagonists during the evening being Lewis, Karen Doyle, Tony Gard, and Alex Owolade. Had you gone there with an intention to cause any disorder?
There was no disorder. It's completely false. We went there with a list of demands calling for CS spray to be withdrawn. The whole entire purpose of those Lambeth Police Community Consultative Groups is for people to intervene, and people frequently raised motions and raised demands and asked for things to be done. There was no disorder. There was disagreement, there was argument, there was robust discussion. There was no disorder. It's completely false.
The third paragraph on this extract says that the MFJ view CS spray the issue as their next major campaign. With an apparently weak committee, the MFJ hope to mobilise public concern against the spray and build effective street opposition against it. Does that ring bells with you? Was that the objective?
What does it even mean, build effective street opposition? what are they talking about? This bears no relation to what the Movement for Justice was doing. We had, in January 1998, we launched the campaign around CS spray. We raised it at that Lambeth Police Community Consultative meeting. We had a public meeting. We then attended the next Police Consultative meeting where we got a vote where they said they would withdraw the use of the CS spray in Lambeth pending further consultation. We had press coverage, we held a public meeting again, we had a picket of the police station. A black family were sprayed by CS spray outside King's College Hospital in the midst of all that. We brought that family to the police consultative meeting. There was experts coming to the police consultative meeting. This was a successful local campaign against an issue that people felt passionate about, because some people had died. Ibrahim Assay had died after being sprayed with CS spray. No one wanted it.
There is a report, I'm not going to take you to it, but for the record it's MPS 000790 that does note at paragraph 3 there was widespread community support for the CS spray issue, which is what you've said. One document I would like to display, MPS 000833 behind tab B8, is in relation to one of the police community consultative committee meetings. This is the report of the 6th of February 98 in relation to a meeting on the 5th of February 98. The MFJ had attended a meeting, and it says you made another intervention on the issue of CS spray, and a vote agrees to call on police to suspend the use of spray in Lambeth pending further investigation. That's what you were talking about just a moment ago. And you also spoke about experts. Paragraph 2 here, we can see that after the police presentation of the case for the CS spray, Alex Alouade of the MFJ made a presentation beginning with a 10-minute Channel 4 news report on the spray, which was highly critical of it. There were then various speakers from the floor. MFJ speakers included Lewis, Karen Doyle, Tony Gard. Did you speak on the issue?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did.
But it says the most potent speech, however, was made by a Dr. Robert Jones, who stated that as a cancer specialist, he had been working on CS spray since the 60s, and then he launched into a very damning analysis of it. Dr. Jones wasn't known to the MFJ, is that right?
Yeah, no, we met him at that meeting.
And his contribution met with near stunned disbelief by them at how effective and supportive of their argument his argument was. Paragraph 3 says that the MFJ have no illusions that this vote means that the police will stop using CS spray. They do, however, view it as a fantastic propaganda base from which to attack all future use of the spray by police, especially if injury is caused. And their intention now is to bring about a situation where every police officer in Lambeth knows that to use the spray will have political repercussions. Was that something you were trying to bring about, this fear of using what could be an effective weapon?
A deadly weapon, yes. We absolutely wanted the complete withdrawal of a deadly weapon from the hands of the police, who were known to harass people and kill people. Yes, we wanted the withdrawal of CS spray.
When you say it's a deadly weapon, it is classed as a firearm, isn't it? And should only be used when absolutely necessary. Is that your understanding of it?
Well, I don't know that exact phraseology.
Was it a propaganda base? This use of the word propaganda again?
Again, I don't know what it means. Like, so propaganda is like, it's flyers, right? It's flyers, it's talking, it's meetings, it's speaking. Like, they say that like that's a bad thing or something subversive and dangerous, but like, you know, the press releases of the public inquiry are propaganda. What it means nothing. So much of these reports, again, I restate that they reflect the SDS delusion. They do not reflect what we were campaigning for and what our intentions were.
Can I go to the last paragraph on this document, please? MFJ will now be pressing for a meeting with Kate Hoey at the House of Commons to further push their case. Did you have a meeting with Miss Hoey?
I can't remember. We probably did. We met with lots of MPs during that period, so I assume we did.
And reference is made to speakers that included Dr. Peter Gray, who was the expert on the Channel 4 programme, and Dr. Robert Jones, who was the expert, you say, who was so effective at the committee meeting.
Yeah.
So was it right then that there was a vast amount of support for this campaign?
Mm-hmm. Yes, from all multiple quarters. It was a very successful campaign, and there wasn't a single arrest during the campaign. There was no disorder. It was legitimate campaigning activities, demonstrations, meetings, experts, reports, MPs. It was all the things that by any means necessary. This is actually, it was interesting reading these reports, because I thought, oh, this is exactly what MFJ did. That this is what MFJ did. We ran very successful local campaigns on specific issues, and we utilised all the means of democratic activity that we could to win for the community.
I'd like to ask you about another campaign, Justice for the Broomfield School 3. Mm-hmm. That was in 2000. The context of that being on the 20th of October 2000, a gang of armed Turkish men entered Broomfield School and attacked a black student who was hospitalised. Is that your recollection of that
Yes.
incident which led to the campaign?
Yeah.
And who were the Broomfield School 3?
So after that happened, I can't remember if it was the same day or if it was the day after, but a group of school students from Broomfield School spotted the guy who had done the attack on a bus, and there was a police officer nearby, and they told the police officer, that's the guy who did the attack, and the police officer just told them to go away and didn't do anything. They got very upset and angry. More police were called, and the police arrested those students basically for demanding that the police did something about this person who had attacked their friend. So several of them were charged with, I can't remember exactly what the charges was. It may have been assaulting the police. It may have been some sort of public order offence. These were school children in school uniforms.
They were, and I think the campaign held meetings, and it was in people's homes, wasn't it?
One of the mothers, yeah, she had people in her home meeting.
So it was the home of one of the students who had been arrested?
Yes.
I don't need to display this, but in HN81's witness statement at paragraph 118, he said, while the meeting took place in a private home, it was a public meeting, and I think about 20 people attended, including significant figures from the SWP, the Socialist Workers' Party. Do you recall those meetings?
Absolutely would not have been a public meeting. We did not have public meetings in people's homes. That would be ridiculous and dangerous to do.
Why was that?
Because it would potentially make those people a target for fascists, or anything could happen if you publicise someone's home address. Of course we wouldn't publicise someone's home address. These were meetings organised by the family for people who were supportive of their campaign to talk about next steps in the campaign.
Can I display, please, MPS 304771. It's behind tab B258 of the MFJ bundle. It's a report of the 1st of December 2000, entitled MFJ in Southgate. It reports on the Broomfield School 3 campaign. Paragraph 2 They were about 14 years old, some of the children that were arrested, weren't they? The agitating parents reported that many of the other parents are refusing to support them, but nevertheless they seem to be building a small but volatile support base. And especially with the input of MFJ, the court hearing is likely to be confrontational. Were MFJ looking to cause confrontation at the court hearing?
No, of course not. And can I just say that, like, again, this is another example of the deeply offensive reporting that happens in these reports, undercover reports, that parents of children who are facing life-altering criminal charges are reduced to agitating parents. It's just despicable.
It's suggested that the initial estimate is for a crowd of about 30 who are unlikely to show any respect for authority. Was that your understanding of the group that was there to support the children and their parents at court?
No, it's my understanding of how racist the SDS were.
And why do you say this is reflective of racism?
Because it's denigrating parents and children who are facing racism and who have faced attack from both a racist and from the police, and who denigrating them as just confrontational, violent, agitational, and that's fundamentally racism. The police, throughout all of these reports, the focus on black people, and there was a report where he talks about a demonstration and says, oh, it was mostly white, so there will be no trouble on it. That all the reports drip with their prejudice.
You can see at the end of this document, the source comment says that unlike many cases that MFJ have been involved with, there does not seem to be anything glaringly wrong with the police's action. In brackets, of course, although of course the, in quotes, victims do not see it that way. Therefore, they are likely to be found guilty. And the present topicality of violence in and around schools gives added weight to this case, in that it originated with the arrested kids alleging that they had been attacked by others and then getting angry at what they saw as a lack of police action. The other kids were Turkish, the arrested ones were black. They see it as a racial issue. Did you, as MFJ, see this as a racial issue?
We saw the police's actions as racist, that they, instead of listening to the black children who were telling them that's the person who attacked us, they attacked the black children instead. So we saw that as racist. What we tried to do in terms of the wider community is we sought to bring the black community and the Turkish Kurdish community together on the issue of police racism and violence, which affected both communities at different points. And can I just say, like, the backhanded, unlike many cases that MFJ has been involved with, there does not seem to be anything glaring wrong. So he's effectively admitting that we were getting justice for people who deserve justice. It's like a weird backhanded comment.
I want to move on and ask you about another few documents that touch on the issue of racism. Can I display, please, MPS 40740. This is behind tab B15 of the MFJ bundle. This is a report of the 2nd of the 12th, 97, and relates to a collaboration between MFJ and an Ivorian Relief Action Group. Do you recall that?
Oh, I do. I remember IRAG very well.
And what was the purpose of that collaboration?
They used to meet in the same building that we met at, and we shared politics. They were actually a group who had been involved in a militant student union in Ivory Coast, and most of them had come over after repression. And we shared a lot of politics with them, so we organised together with them on a number of occasions.
The final sentence on this report says that if this association can be developed, the MFJ will stand much more of a chance of connecting with young black men, in brackets, in the political sense. Was it a stepping stone to engaging more with young black men in the wider community?
No, it's ridiculous. And again, it's this SDS obsession with race that didn't reflect the reality of what Movement for Justice was. Movement for Justice was an integrated, he's just described multiple meetings that were actually majority black. We didn't have to stand more of a chance of this is not us. This is Hagen, this is SDS, this is their delusion.
I want to ask you a question about the response to Police Federation comments on a Channel 4 report regarding the Michael Menson case. This was a report of the 18th of September 1998. Can I display, please, MPS 0001353. It's behind tab B64 of the MFJ bundle. MPS 0001353. Yeah, 0001353. Do you recall the Michael Menson case?
I do. It wasn't a case we were extensively involved with, but I of course recall the case.
There was a Channel 4 report, a feature where Mike Bennett from the Police Federation commented on that. His comments were seen as to be working against the family justice campaign, if I can put it that way. In the report, it says that the inquest result will be seized upon by activists as giving credence to the allegations that police are racist and closed-minded. And there is a source comment on that report that says it is not the response of the activists which is important, as that is entirely predictable, but rather that of the black community in general. Thank you. That should be up in front of you now to assist. His latest comments are likely to further inflame the situation and alienate members of the black community. In terms of a response to the Channel 4 programme on this matter, what do you say about these comments? Does that reflect how MFJ responded to that report, that news report?
Well, I mean, again, it doesn't take intelligence to understand that when someone is publicly racist, that people will be angry. It's incredible to me that so much money was pumped into the SDS to produce reports like this, which, everyone was angry about those comments. Of course they were. They were racist. And, it doesn't need intelligence to figure that out.
You comment in your witness statement that you knew of people in your wider group, people from the community that were crying out, you say, to assist the police in what the community's response to a feature like this may be, or more in general, the relationship between police and the black community in particular. Can you help us with just expanding on that, how that would work?
So the Lambeth Police Community Consultative Group, it was the chair and the committee were a group of community members whose whole kind of remit was advising the police on the views of the black community and advising on issues of different operations that were taking place and stuff like that, and intervening and all that kind of stuff. But you also had church leaders, you had youth workers, there was people crying out and to the police for consultation and for answers and for communication. The views that we were expressing were not unique. They were not unique, and they were not imposed and somehow, forced on people that we changed their mind and made them more angry. They were already angry, and there was loads of people who really were begging to work with the police, looking for funding for community groups and liaison groups and all that kind of stuff. It was, the police just had to speak to them, just had to engage with them. And all of this reporting is absolutely pointless.
Can I display, please, MPS 40425. It's a report of the 1st of July 97 in relation to a meeting regarding police harassment. In the first paragraph here, we can see that Movement for Justice, the Lambeth Movement for Justice, held a meeting at the Brixton Recreation Centre on the 26th of June 97 to draw attention to what they deemed to be police harassment, and some 40 people attended, 10 of whom were white. Of the 30 black people present, 20 were young males. I'll give you an opportunity to look over this report, refresh your memory in relation to this.
I remember it.
You recall being at that meeting, do you?
And I recall the report, and I do actually recall the meeting, not in detail, but I remember that meeting.
And in terms of the exchanges and the discussions between people who were white or black, what do you recall about the significance of that? Would you put the significance on it to the same degree that is set out in this report?
No, absolutely not. Was there people who would raise in our meetings queries or concerns about the fact that Movement for Justice was an integrated organisation? Of course, and Movement for Justice had those political discussions with people all the time where we explained why we believed that was necessary. But the way he describes it, I mean, it's just, again, it's this obsession with black people and the kind of potential of violence of black people. It's just dripping with it. You comment at paragraph 98.14 of your witness statement in relation to another report, I don't need to display it, at 0006198, where a comment is made by HN81. It describes MFJ as a white or mixed organisation headed by a homosexual. They have no standing among the young black community that they continue to target. You comment in relation to that. It's just deeply...
Why did you find that offensive?
It's just deeply offensive. It's offensive on so many levels. It's offensive, alleging that the black community is somehow more homophobic than every other community. It's saying that Movement for Justice was a white organisation. It wasn't a white organisation. It was an integrated organisation with black leaders, with gay leaders, with lesbian leaders. That was what our organisation was. That did not in the slightest mean that we had less support from the community in Lambeth. We had a petition after Alex was sacked. We got 30,000 people, and this was before This was before the internet. This was door knocking and stalls and going to the recreation centre, having 30,000 conversations with people who supported us. Like, we had widespread support in the local community, black and white. When I say the local community of Lambeth is actually integrated. The workers of Lambeth Council are actually integrated. This delusion that the SDS have about Movement for Justice, about the community of Lambeth and about the black community in general, it is fundamentally through the lens of racism. That's it. Black people are a threat, they're violent. That's what this is saying, and it's really gross. And you know, the notion that we would give in to any notion of, oh, don't give flyers to white people in the room is absolutely ridiculous.
So you're saying that didn't happen?
No,
you didn't just give flyers out to black people in the room?
Of course it didn't happen. I mean, it's just so ridiculous that of course it didn't happen. This report is like just the perfect example of the SDS delusion and their racism.
What about the suggestion that there'll be mass protests at the police station whenever a black person is arrested? About halfway down the first page.
Well, if someone is wrongfully arrested, we're gonna demonstrate at the police station, of course. Nothing wrong with that. It's actually a democratic right, supposedly.
Was there any sense that if it's a black person, it must be an unlawful arrest?
Well, every situation is I mean, it's just ridiculous, right? So if we are going to do a demonstration at a police station because someone was arrested, it will have been because either that arrest was observed in our Don't Walk On By campaign and it would have been seen to be harassment and baseless, or there would have been something that happened in the course of that arrest that alerted us to it. So it's just like, did we demonstrate whenever any random person was arrested? No, of course not. We'd been having demonstrations 10 times a day outside the police station. It's ridiculous.
What about this sense that there'd be mass pickets at all inquests when a black person has died in custody? Was it on the basis of race that you would protest or picket outside an inquest?
We during that period, we supported Harry Stanley, he was in fact Scottish, but because someone viewed him as Irish, the armed police went and shot him. He was deaf in one ear and couldn't hear them calling out to him. They shot him because he had a table leg. And Dermot O'Neill, who is Irish, white and Irish. Like, we didn't just support black people who were victims of police brutality. We also supported Irish people, Asian people, anyone who was, and including any white people who were subject to an unlawful, who were died in the course of a police stop. We would support them as well. It wasn't, the way this is phrased is all wrong, and it's through their own screwed up view.
And similarly with that third bullet point there in terms of petitions fronted by families of dead black prisoners calling on the Home Secretary to prosecute the police officers concerned. I mean, again, was it dictated by the race of the person that had died?
I can't even recall that demand. I assume it was someone coming to the meeting and saying it, if indeed it happened. But what's wrong with petitions calling for prosecution of police officers when someone's died in custody? Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
The question was really in relation to whether it was dead black prisoners only, or was it specifically on the basis of somebody's race that a petition would be fronted?
I honestly can't even remember that demand. I don't remember making that demand. But no, I mean, if there was there's multiple people at the moment still locked up under joint enterprise, and they're both black, Asian and white, and we would support all of them to get out of prison, because joint enterprise is fundamentally unjust. So, we didn't, I don't think we would have specified in that way.
I'd like to ask you specifically about public disorder and violence in a couple of key instances. Can I have on display, please, MPS 301769? It's behind tab B15. This reports on a stewards' meeting relating to the National Civil Rights March in 1999. Can you recall that?
Again, I remember the march, I remember the poster disaster, and I can't remember the detail of the meeting, but I remember there was one, and I'm assuming I was there. I would definitely have been there.
Why was the poster campaign a disaster?
Oh, it was because they were put on card, and it takes you forever to tie 4 corners of a card to some railing, and it just became such an exhausting chore trying to put these posters up everywhere. It was kind of just a bit ridiculous.
There's an indication in this report that the MFJ were not in favour of riots or an escalation of violence. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Working towards a second paragraph, the leadership of MFJ had no real idea as to what numbers may attend this event, but MFJ were working towards a likely figure of 500, hoping it would be many more. In an event like this, it's a fairly big campaign. Other organisations involved as well as MFJ, is that right?
Yeah, there would have been other organisations supporting that march. I think I probably provided some publicity for the march that said them.
And were you one of the stewards? Would you act as a steward for MFJ's involvement in marches like this?
Yeah, I would mainly be on the megaphone. I got pretty good at chant leading, so I'd mainly be on the megaphone.
Paragraph 3 says that those in command of the march have no control over the actions of... the main topic of conversation revolved around how to deal with an intervention by the police. It's believed that the police would prefer the march to go quietly, but it is felt that those in command of the march have no control over the actions of individual officers. Certainly the crowd will be encouraged to voice their anger, and taunting and spitting at the police will be acceptable. Was that something that you were aware of? Firstly, voicing anger. Was that something that was done?
All our demonstrations voiced anger. That's the purpose of a demonstration, is to voice anger.
Taunting police officers?
We wouldn't have told people to taunt police officers. We have chants. There's a whole row of chants that we say, and we have everyone focused on the chants, which usually have our demands in them if we can.
What about spitting at police officers?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Spitting in general, I mean, you'd be just as likely to hit a fellow protester. What's the point in that?
It goes on to say, however, MFJ do not want this event to descend into a riot, and although their outlook is by any means necessary, they believe that any escalation of violence would be counterproductive to their long aims. Now, you addressed that at the beginning of your evidence about not wanting people to be arrested. It diverts from your common purpose for being, and was that something that was drilled into people that would be attending on behalf of MFJ?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I remember really early on when I was very young, a leading member at that time. We were on, I think it was a criminal justice bill demonstration, and one of the Kingsway people had picked up a stone or something, and he told, put that down. Like, there was a general approach. We did not do things that would get us arrested. And that was, and it was even solidified more after the experience of having to do a legal defence campaign following the Mawiney incident. So absolutely, the goal of what we want in a demonstration, in a march, is for that march to feel powerful. We want it to feel strong. That strength and power come from the size of the march, it comes from the demands of the march, it comes from the chanting of the march, and it comes from the goal of the march. So, you know, are we going somewhere to deliver a petition, or are we going somewhere to express anger about a particular thing? Like, and it comes from, do those people go away feeling more powerful than they did before they went on that march? And do they go away with a plan of action for what else we can do to build our movement? That's the purpose of a march.
In terms of the source comment at the end of this report, it says that in policing the event, it must be remembered that this is MFJ's day. They intend to control the street and not allow the police to control them. It is an anti-police march, so the crowd's target will be marching alongside them. And that being the case, MFJ will view their actions as defensive. In terms of this being your day, you're not wanting to be controlled, is that true?
I can give an example. I can't remember if it was on this march or if it was on the earlier. This isn't the 97, no, or I think it might have been on the 97 march. There was a moment in the march where the police were trying to get us to divert away from, I think it was Kennington Police Station, to go down a different road. And they were talking to Alex at the front. And Alex stopped the march and he called me over. I had the megaphone. And he put the proposal to the march. He said, the police want us to march down this way, not go this way in front of Kennington Police Station. What do people want to do? We're going to hold a vote. And we held a mass vote on this march. And people voted, no, we want to go down to Kennington Police Station. Alex turned around to the police and was like, that's what we're going to do. And the police moved aside and we went down to Kennington Police Station. So when you say, but no arrests, no disorder, no violence, it was us marching and asserting our power and control of the streets, absolutely.
What do you say about it being an anti-police march?
It was an anti-police harassment, anti-police racism march, anti-police brutality, anti-deaths in police custody march.
Was there a sense that the crowds were looking to target the police officers that were policing the march?
No. I mean, and it's ridiculous because they had I remember they had lines of police either side of this march. It was so ridiculous. We held multiple marches through Brixton where there was no police at all. Like, we just marched around and we had it was powerful. We ended up in the market where we spoke, and you know what? No disorder, nothing. The demonstrations that end up with disorder tend to be the demonstrations where there is an over-policing of the demonstration. That's my experience anyway. We've had multiple demonstrations without any police and there's been no problems. And there was no problems on that march either. They were right down either side. If anyone was thinking of targeting the police, they could have easily. No one was doing that.
There is a report, MPS 302043, please. It's behind tab B124 of the MFJ bundle. And this is in relation to the Brixton, Brick Lane and Compton Street bombings.
David Copeland.
Yes, it's in relation to a march triggered by that. The date of the report is the 7th of May 1999. And you comment at paragraph 67 of your witness statement that this is one of the very few places where something which could be categorised as a public disorder actually did happen.
Yeah,
do you recall what was going on here? I'll give you a moment to look at the report.
No, I remember it. And it's actually because 400, 500 documents. This was literally the only place where I found an actual report that could be said to be public disorder. So it is significant.
So it relates to a march on Saturday, the 1st of May.
It was the May
of 99.
Every year there's a May Day march, but prior to that May Day march, the Brixton bomb had happened, and then the Brick Lane and the Compton Street bombing happened as well. The Compton Street bombing was right before May Day. And we, along with Unison, Lambeth Unison, it's quite traditional for the May Day march for there to be feeder marches from different areas, different communities. And we decided that we were going to do one from Brixton. I worked to get actually the Kurdish community from North London to join us on the Brixton March because of the significance of going from Brixton after this horrific fascist attack on our community. And we marched from Brixton to Trafalgar Square. We then marched to Compton Street to Soho to mark what had just happened in Soho. And we'd also been organising in Brick Lane at that time as well. When we were at Soho, we held a rally, and we had been told that there was another feeder march coming from East London, and they were going to come and join us. And the police said, "Oh no, there's no march. There's no march coming to join you. We want you to go back to Trafalgar Square." We actually did go back. We started marching back to Trafalgar Square. We actually did what the police said in that instance. And when we were on, was it Tottenham Court Road? When we either Charing Cross or Tottenham Court Road it was. We saw this march from the East London Teachers Association. So instantly we knew the police had lied to us about this other march joining us, and we were like, right, no, we're going to join with that other march and we're going to go back to Soho so that we can carry out that demonstration there. And then at Soho, he describes, I can't actually remember this pushing and pulling with the police. In the end, we did go back to Trafalgar Square, but that's it. I mean, all he describes is he calls it a melee, but he's not specific. What it would have been was the police trying to push us back and people standing still. That's it. That's the extent of it. And that incident was directly caused by the police intervention, by the police lying to us about this other march. If they had have let us stay there till ELTA came and joined that rally, we would have had our rally and we would have gone back to Trafalgar Square.
So what's reported here is that the police finally blocked them off at Soho Square, where a pushing match ensued. By this time, there were some 250 people left in the crowd. MFJ was pleased to be leading by example, even though its banner had been broken in the melee. So a pushing match, who was that between?
Well, I can't actually remember, but it would have been the police, and it would have been the police having a line and people, the crowd up against that line, and the police pushing people back. That's what it would have been. And that's generally it. That's the extent of it. But my point about this in particular is that disorder, I don't even class that as disorder. It's just something that happens on demonstrations quite a lot. It's not, no one's throwing anything, no one's getting injured. This could not have been foreseen by any intelligence officer. This was caused by the police on the day.
So you hadn't gone to this march intending to cause any disorder?
Absolutely not, of course not.
Were there any arrests, as
No.
far as you recall?
Absolutely no arrest. In the entire period of this reporting of Dave Hagan, there were 0 arrests of anyone in Movement for Justice or around Movement for Justice on any of our actions.
Can I display, please, MPS 0005698? This is in relation to a Bermondsey march. It's behind tab 285 in the MFJ bundle. This is in relation to a National Front march that you opposed on Saturday the 7th of April 2001. Do you recall this particular march?
I do. I mean, I can't. So there were, I think there were like 3. The National Front targeted Bermondsey that summer for a series of marches in their Keep Bermondsey White campaign. So I think there were 3 actual marches. So I can't remember exactly which of the 3 this was, but I do absolutely remember this incident.
We can see that there is some charging of police lines by MFJ Revolution, which was the youth wing of Workers' Power, who ignored the directions of the ANL, initially blocked the road and then charged the police lines. Do you remember that? Is that what MFJ were involved with?
So what we want to do on an anti-fascist demonstration, I mean, this is one of the few anti-fascist things we did because it was local to us. What we want to do in any anti-fascist mobilisation is we want to make it as difficult as possible for those fascists to recruit. Now, the fascists in that area there was multiple racist attacks. It was like a regular occurrence. It was a frightening place to be for black people. What we wanted to do was stop them from marching, or in the absence of stopping them from marching, we would want to stop anyone from joining them. So we don't want like local youth or anything like that to feel like it's a good option to join the fascists. So we would have tried to block the road, yes. And I do remember I do very vividly recall pulling Dave Hagan back from the police line because he was being way too aggressive with the police, and I was concerned he was going to be arrested. And I remember physically pulling him back from the police line and telling him to calm down. And he was, you know, when he says these pleas were rejected and most people present were up for it, he was up for it. He was the one who was really charging the police lines and being aggressive with them.
Who else from MFJ was charging the police lines?
I don't recall us charging the police lines at all. There was a police line. So I have a material memory of it. There was like a wall that wasn't too far behind us. I think we were by Bermondsey Station. I can't recall actually. So we didn't have far behind us. We were up against the police line. I don't think we would have had, charging implies running at the police line. That wasn't something we did. Why would we do that?
Were you up against the police as a counter-protest for,
yes,
for a march coming by?
We would have been up against the police, and there would have been pushing. The police would have been trying to push us back, probably. But I don't recall charging a police line. That wouldn't be something we'd do.
You mentioned that you were pulling David Hagan back from the police.
Yeah.
Was that an unusual thing? Does that stick in your mind? Was that unusual behaviour for him?
It was really... So I knew he had this obsession with anti-fascist stuff, but this was the first time I'd seen him kind of in action on an anti-fascist protest, like active. I can't remember if Dover was before. I think Dover was before this, but we didn't actually get involved in Dover. But anyway, this was the first time and he was like really, like it was stark how aggressive he was being. It was unusual. It was unusual for Movement for Justice. Movement for Justice were generally pretty disciplined and careful and thoughtful in what we did, but he was just going for it at these police officers, and I have a very clear memory of pulling him back and telling him to calm down.
Were there any arrests at this march?
No. Well, not of our group. I don't know if there was arrests with any of the other, because there was other anti-fascists in other areas. I don't know if there's other, but in our group, absolutely not, no arrests.
You've exhibited a photo to your witness statement. It's a photo at Exhibit 8 that you say shows you pulling David Hagan back from the police lines.
Yeah.
If we can have that up on screen, please. UCPI 38672.
Yeah. So I'm the one in the light purple T-shirt with the glasses, and you can see I'm pushing Hagan back from the police line.
Is that you say this is the Bermondsey
Yes.
march?
Yeah. This is Bermondsey.
And did you engage with the police there?
No, I was pulling Hagan back.
And
I mean, look how many police there are and how many of us there are. It's ridiculous that we would charge their line.
And you're saying the person with the red circle around, you're saying that's
Hagan.
David
Yeah.
Hagan. And you're saying this picture was taken once you'd pulled him back. Is that right? Is that what we can see you doing
This
there?
is actually me in the action of pulling him back. You can kind of see there's a police officer's hand around his arm there, and that's because he was being really aggressive with them, and he was going at them, and I pulled him back, and I think after this I kind of shoved him back and I said, calm down. Like, he just looked out of control, to be honest.
Can we see in this picture the National Front march at all? At what stage does this occur? Had the march been gone? Are we awaiting it?
I can't tell. It's hard to see. I feel like they weren't. This wasn't a point where they were there. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
But I think this was Bermondsey Police Station behind us. But not Bermondsey Police Station. Bermondsey train station.
Thank you. That can be
behind
taken
us.
down. So it may be an opportune moment to break for lunch.
We'll start again at 2 on the dot, if we may.